Very good afternoon to you all. Charles here for Grant's Daily Chart Analysis, Monday the 11th of May 2026. What's that? Week 20, quarter 2. Pardon the racket, my dog is going bananas in the background. Nevertheless, a new week, the DXY to reanalyze and see what we have to play with for the upcoming week. So I'm not sure if you had a look at the forecast this morning. Overwhelmingly still bullish on that DXY. Let's head back to the charts, more so because we have respected that weekly order block, as we were last week as well, still against those EMAs, still having to trade towards, most importantly, that weekly 50 EMA, which in my opinion, we then start to fill those gaps, as you can see clearer on the 4-hour. And even, well, this gap is now on its way to being filled. That was created overnight, but nevertheless, the gap up at these highs, once we start trending towards that weekly 50 EMA, as I said, we'll be looking to fill those gaps. So DXY not truly confirmed as bullish yet. I do believe we have had some good signs, particularly that break of the 4-hour 50 EMA. And you guys that recognize how I trade know that I like to have the EMA on side. If it's not on side, then I'm looking to use those 50 EMAs as targets. So the fact that we have broken above that 4-hour 50 EMA for me is a great sign in regards to price action now, creating what could well be the first high, looking for that higher low, for liquidity to be driven in by that order block on that weekly refined in the daily, to then hopefully perhaps create that higher high long term, which would see us trading through that daily 50 EMA up towards that weekly 50 EMA, which for some reason I can no longer see. There we are on the chart. So that's the forecast for the week. However, in the immediacy, I was looking at dollar weakness, more so up at these highs. We haven't managed to get up at those highs just yet. Of course, as London opened, I was looking to see if the dollar would push up into its order block, which would have had me looking perhaps towards a US dollar CAD short, like so. And as we go over to US dollar CAD, we can see that that plan was very much so in place. However, it hasn't materialized just yet. But in my opinion, if we are going to get US dollar CAD to continue moving towards the downside and then price actually coming back up, I do believe then if it isn't the full push on the DXY, potentially that would then create a better setup on US dollar CAD, looking to go short, as we would then seek to break that trend that is most certainly forming on that 4-hour time frame towards the upside. So I wouldn't say it's easy price action, but you can definitely understand it. That brings me nicely onto US dollar CAD, as we started printing those lower lows and lower highs on the 4-hour time frame, then being driven into this higher time frame daily order block for price then to be looking to push higher towards the upside. Of course, just like on the DXY, we are then running into traffic by way of the daily 50 EMA. And what I can see on the way down now, created as a result of last week, we do have a daily order block that price has now seemingly found a reaction from. Haven't quite tapped into that daily 50 EMA just yet, so hence why the plan was really to wait for price to show its hand if it did get up to these previous weekly highs, using some wick imbalances as well as confluence for that short position down. However, we do have a little break of structure at the moment, so if price comes back up to this area, it would be definitely something to be thinking about. But I would have to double check the cross pairs as well as the DXY to understand, is the DXY looking to roll bearish for a little bit longer after it's had that push higher. So US dollar CAD still a bit of a favorite throughout the day. We'll see how that plays. UJ using US dollar strength. Hopefully, I was looking at initial US dollar weakness again as London open prices up here, seeing if the DXY would push up into its 4-hour order block. That would then, of course, have the US dollar JPY hopefully push up into its 4-hour order block as well, and that would have been a lovely short position supported by the 4-hour and daily 50 MA. And as you can see to the left hand side, this is definitely the reason why I'd be looking to be shorting from this area on the 15-minute time frame. With that said as well, look at the 4-hour time frame, bring that to your attention. We are looking to respect that 4-hour 50 MA. And in terms of trend, we have had that lower low in the market. Lower high potential, lower low fell to be created. Therefore, in the instance last week, we were in that range looking for price to break out of that range, pull back down into an area of imbalance before looking for that long, supported by that daily order block to the bottom that you see just here. US dollar CAD would have returned back to some of these areas. UJ returned some of those areas. I took a position on UJ longs last week, not from my ideal position on the chart, I must say. It was from a 15-minute order block, as opposed to this 5-minute order block that is still very much so my best looking long position. However, here and now, looking at a UJ short, it would seemingly, of course, depend on whether the DXY is looking to roll short. So as you can see, alerts are well and truly on the chart. We haven't had any movement really since London Open. So looking at potential shorts, but more so would like to see UJ move to the upside. But with that said, as mentioned in a group this morning, that the best case scenario for a UJ long will have the daily 50MA broken. We'd have that daily order block that we're currently using as confidence for the short, have that broken by way of a daily candle closure above. So that way we'd be now trading with the 50 EMAs for that long position. And of course, once you've got that higher high confirmed, particularly on that 4-hour time frame, you'd be looking for the higher low confirmation before the higher high. So I think either way, it looks for a very interesting week ahead on UJ. GU identified a range. Let's see if we can see that a lot clearer on the 4-hour. As you can see, the 4 hour is very much so my go-to time frame. I'm not fully convinced it's a range just yet, but I have put it in a range on the 15-minute time frame just to give me a little bit of a bias in terms of, is this going to be my favorite pair rolling through the day? And once I identify a range-bound market on any time frame, it gently slides its way down the leaderboard in terms of a favorite that I'd be looking to speculate on the day. So using DXY strength coming out of the market, of course, I'd be looking for my higher probable setup. Using the DXY would be a short position on GU, which I can see nice areas to be looking to short from. We are respecting that daily order block, particularly the weekly order block to the top right-hand chart. You can see that a lot clearer, and more so it's important that price is failing to break and close that weekly order block on that weekly time frame. So looking for a short position to come out of there. But as I said, I don't feel there's any rush on a GU short at the moment. We'll just have to see how that materializes. And the reason behind that, as you can see by my illustration, price was trending above and continues to respect that 4-hour 50MA. Therefore, my range back down to the 4-hour 50MA is quite limited. And looking on the 50-minute time frame as well, there isn't a clear trend that I can look to essentially trade that trend is what I'm looking to do. So when there isn't a trend, that means for me that not only would I be first in the market, I'm trading a trend that I'm not certain on. And I don't believe that is the key to high profitability trading or high profitable trading. So G for the moment, it's at the back of the mind. Although it's here on the green, I'll give that a firm amber for now and just continue rolling through the charts. Now, what you would see as well, EU, GU, are they not rolling in sync together? Yes, they are, but depending on the strength of course, the primary currency, pound or be it the euro, that would depend, of course, how the chart is looking, despite it being correlated with the DXY. So what we have very similar type of circumstances where we're trading out of that higher time frame weekly order block, and with price ever closely within that weekly order block, that limits me to be looking for long positions despite price looking quite bullish on the 4-hour, and particularly previous daily close as well. On Friday was very much so bullish. However, refined weekly, we do have that daily order block. That price, more importantly, is respecting to the downside. Therefore, I am very much so looking to find a short position once it materializes using that US dollar strength coming out of the market. Don't believe that's ready just yet. There are a couple of areas on the chart. We have session high that price is tapped into in London, but with that said, session high, it hasn't given us any breaks of structure, and you can see by my illustration here that a break of structure would definitely be the better position to take, considering those that do not pay attention to that weekly order block will identify that price in the immediacy is bullish, using the 4-hour order block as confluence as well with the 4-hour 50MA. As you can see here by my arrow, price will be looking to push up from the area. So in ideal circumstances, I'd be looking to have that 4-hour order block and 4-hour EMA broken to the downside, pullback before then looking for that short position on GU like thus. So almost at 10 minutes. I'd hate for you guys to be bored, but I'll continue rolling on. AU again, overwhelmingly short bias. Of course, I understand that we are bullish pushing into that time frame. However, the weekly time frame is my guiding light here. I will not take a long position when I am in a higher time frame order block that naturally I'll be looking for price to roll in the opposite direction. I don't believe that makes sense. It simply limits me to then understand that in order for me to take a long position, I need to have range potentially down here on that daily time frame, that from that daily order block up towards that weekly order block, or more so if price simply breaks above that weekly order block next week, we close above it, and I'll be looking for the pullback followed by the continuation from those 50 EMA. So at the moment, as you can see, my only potential setup on AU is a short position. And again, much like all the other cross pairs, I don't believe that they're ready just yet. Significant breaks of structure, in my opinion, would be best, particularly on a Monday, just having to understand where is the direction for the week heading and what is DXY really going to be doing. But as you can see, 4-hour time frame, we are respecting rather those 4-hour order blocks to the highs. And as I explained this morning on the pre-London breakdown, is after that high, a higher low is now created, but that higher low hasn't been confirmed as a result of not making a higher high. So technically, the most recent higher low is the structure point. And as you can see, it marries up perfectly. The fact that that higher low has actually created us an order block where we would expect price to roll out from. So I believe shorts would be the play. However, I think that breaks of structure, particularly of that area, would be best to have that confirmed. Of course, taking the position before the break of structure as well is also an option, but at least an intricate break of structure, in my opinion, would be required. And if I enlarge this 15-minute time frame for you, I've highlighted an area in the market where price is failing to break below, and that is obviously happening for whatever particular reason. However, it is just immediate structure. So if I can get that immediate structure point broken, have my entry criteria up at these highs, then potentially I would look for a short on AU. GCAD, not much going on GCAD, to be quite honest. Looking for the highs and the absolute lows. A bit of a messy chart, in fairness, but it does make sense. GCAD, we were trading out of towards the highs, this daily order block, in my opinion, that broke structure to the left-hand side. We were ranging on the daily, ranging as well on the 4-hour time frame, waiting for price to push up and pull back down. We didn't get the return last week conclusively, and we've just shot up to those highs now. So pretty difficult, to be honest, GCAD. But in terms of the short, trending now out of that daily order block that you can see just here as a result of this bearish engulfing candles left us an order block behind. Friday's candle wicked in, left the wick to the highs, liquidity sat there, of course. So looking for price to be driven back up to those previous weekly highs to see if we can get that lower time frame confirmation before looking for a short. Believe GCAD shorts could be a nice play. As you can see, my alert is very much so there, refined within this 4-hour order block. Nice 15-minute order block there available. So as I said, entry criteria, definitely be looking for the short there. And GJ, nice favorite for me, still applying live testing to GJ. So you won't really see too many charts go out on GJ. I'm just putting all of my strategy to the test on GJ, whenever and whatever shows up. I'm trading it on very low risk because, as you can see, EG has well and truly left the group chat. Haven't touched EG for a very, very long time. So back to GJ just quickly. You can see GJ on the 4-hour time frame, slight range going on. However, with that said, with a range position, I'd be absolutely happy to take a short position so long as it's up at the absolute highs. And as I say always, I'll be looking to take a long as long as it's down at the absolute lows. The only thing with GJ, as I believe it is potentially in the beginning stages of a range, now we are still being held by that 4-hour 50 EMA. And what I mean, most recent 4-hour candles are seemingly respecting it to the upside. Therefore, if I want to take a short, my range is very, very minimal, whereby I must be able to get break even by that stage. So favorable positions for me on GJ. I'd love to have a 4-hour candle close below that 4-hour 50 MA, and I'll paint that picture for you. Once I were to get that 4-hour close, then have that break of structure, of course, on the 50-minute time frame as well. What that would look like would be the first low, followed by a lower high for a lower low continuation. Once I then pair that in with the fact that it's a range, looking for the fact that price could be manipulated up at these ranges, not being the first in the position would be the ideal scenario, as I love to preach always. So that's pretty much the rundown, team. Looking at everything today, UCAD, where's UCAD? I've had an alert on UCAD to see what's going on. Yeah, UCAD, not interested in anything just yet, of course, as I've explained, up at those highs. Absolutely one to think about, but at the moment, to trade against UCAD or to trade short UCAD would mean trading short the DXY, which at the minute, not quite comfortable with doing so. At this morning, absolutely, but as you look at the DXY now, and you're thinking about areas in which DXY could look to roll short to, as I was explaining this morning as well, the DXY is very much so respecting those 4-hour order blocks. So when I see price coming back down to the 4-hour order blocks and my cross pair is still indicating that I should be looking to short the DXY, straight away I'm thinking twice, because 4-hour order block is being respected. If we were up at these highs, for a good example, and US dollar CAD then was also up at these highs, then absolutely I would say that DXY is nicely in sync to short US dollar CAD as well. However, as a result of the DXY now being down at these lows, not so much up at these highs, where I was looking to short UCAD if price pushed into this area, I don't think that would be a favourable position now to look to short UCAD. I believe UCAD at some stage soon will start be pushing to those highs in line with that DXY strength coming out of the market. So team, I hope that makes sense. A good 15-minute breakdown, just what I'm looking at coming into the New York session and the week ahead. I hope that helps. Any questions, please do continue to send them my way by way of private message, or just comment something nice or not so nice on the comments. Until next time, all the very best. Good luck in your trading journey. Take care. Charles.